Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be the Skinny on Juice. If you are new to my channel, hello and welcome. My name is Becca. I am a registered dietitian, and in my skinny videos, basically what I do is I just go through a certain food product. It's usually always suggestions from you guys, and we just analyze it from a nutrition standpoint, you know, what's good about it, what's bad about it. Especially I like looking at the ingredients and deciphering what exactly are in certain products. Are they good? Are they bad? Is it maybe not so, not so big of a deal? Or maybe is it something you should definitely avoid? My hope for these videos is that I can just help you guys with label reading and pretty much just give you the tools to be able to analyze any type of product that I discuss in these videos. That way you guys can just be more knowledgeable and make better informed decisions when you are picking certain food products, and hopefully find the best product for you based on product availability and budget and things like that. So today's video is going to be all about juice. And there are seriously so many different categories of juice. There are so many options and products out there. So in today's video, I'm going to try and break it down into different categories in order to make this the most informative, but also like the most straightforward as possible. So of course you have, your 100% juices, and then there are like juice mixes and cocktails. There are like bottled smoothie type drinks. There is cold pressed juice. There are just so many different categories. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be going over 5 different juice products. Obviously I can't go over every juice under the sun. We'd be here for weeks. But I'm going to pick 5 different ones, and each juice is kind of from a different one of those categories. So that is how I'm going to go about this. And if you've never seen one of my videos, basically what I will do is go through the nutrition facts and then the ingredient list with you guys and just kind of give you my thoughts, and we'll just go through everything together. And again, I'm not here to press any of my ideas on you. I just like to go through the facts, give you guys the information so that you can make your own better informed decisions. Just one thing I want to say before diving into the products. So juices can have their benefits and drawbacks, which we'll get into, but I just wanted to kind of comment on the explosion of sugary drink options, at least here in the US. They are everywhere. Everyone is drinking sweetened beverages, whether it's juice or soda or sweetened milks or energy drinks. I mean, it's incredible how many options there are. One of the biggest drawbacks of sugary drinks, obviously, they're sugary, but the thing with drinking sugary beverages versus eating something that's sweet is when we're drinking, it's always less mindful because, we're just taking a sip of something. There isn't that much involved. Whereas when you're eating, you've got a plate in front of you, you've got utensils, you've got multiple different things going on your plate. There's just a lot more to catch your attention. But when we are drinking, we are usually pretty mindless. We are just sipping on something. And since we're not chewing, since we're not like looking at a plate of food, that mindfulness drops. And when we are less mindful when we are eating, we tend to get less satisfied or feel less full off of something. Also, sugary drinks don't have a lot to them. They're usually just sugar, unless it's in like the case of milk. So it's not gonna really fill us up, but we're kind of just taking in a bunch of sugar calories, not really feeling full off of it, not really necessarily feeling that satisfaction as in mindfulness satisfaction. So that is probably the biggest problem with sugary drinks, and they are everywhere. So everyone is just sipping on all of these extra sugar calories and not necessarily getting a huge nutritional or even like satisfaction, fullness benefit out of it. So we're kind of just dumping sugar down, and only thing we're getting out of it is the taste and the fact that it's affecting our health, not much more. So that is my comment on sugary drinks and why they can be a little bit scary. But anyway, we're gonna move on. So the very first juice I'm going to talk about today is just a classic 100% orange juice. This is probably one of the most popular juices that people drink all throughout their lifetime. A glass of OJ in the morning, get your vitamin C. So the OJ I'm gonna be looking at is Tropicana brand, and it is just their original no pulp orange juice. No pulp in their OJ. For 8 ounces, which is the serving, which is a cup of OJ, you get 110 calories, pretty much nothing else except for 450 milligrams of potassium. That's great, we need potassium, that's good. 26 grams of carb and 22 grams of sugar, and then 2 grams of protein. So there is a tiny bit of protein in fruit, fun fact. It's nothing to write home about, but there you go. You get 2 grams of protein in your glass of OJ. And just for a sugar reference throughout this video, I like giving references because it helps put things in perspective. A normal 8-ounce Coca-Cola, just a normal Coke, not diet, has 26 grams of sugar. So this has 22 grams of sugar for a cup, same amount. So less, great, but still like a lot of sugar. And the ingredients for this orange juice is just 100% orange juice. So that's a good thing. We want just, if we're gonna be drinking juice, it might as well be just pure juice, nothing added, especially no sugar added. One thing I will comment on is with commercial juices, so when you go to the grocery store and you see that big old aisle of juice with Minute Maid and Tropicana and whatever else, whatever brands, all of those have to be shelf stable for a certain amount of time. So in order to do that, for them to be, created somewhere in a factory and then be stuck on a truck, driven God knows how many miles to another grocery store, and then unpacked in the grocery store, put on the shelf, and then it still needs to last on the shelf for a while, and then still needs to last even when you get it home. So obviously, in order to pull that off, companies are going to have to use techniques in order to make sure it doesn't go bad, because there's a lot of transit time in between. That is just something that is a part of the food culture here, at least in the US. So what they have to do is pasteurize the juice. So basically what pasteurization is they just heat the juice to a super high temperature. It kills off any bacteria that is potentially in there and could spread after it leaves the factory or after it's packaged. And that will really help extend shelf life. So you'll be able to have that juice be good for a lot longer. Now, that all sounds well and good, but the downside of that is when things are heated to really high temperatures, a lot of the nutrients or enzymes or just different things that are in the juice can be degraded, and therefore it loses a lot of the nutritional benefit. So, is pasteurization like the end of the world and like no one should drink 100% juice? No, not necessarily. So we'll get a little bit more into different techniques that are used to kill bacteria and things like that a little later on, but I just wanted to touch on pasteurization here. The next juice I'm going to be looking at is a light juice. So this is Trop 50. So that juice is basically like a lightened up juice, and we are going to be looking at that as well. So obviously it has fewer calories, so people may be drawn to that because it has fewer calories and a lot less sugar. So it could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. Let's look at the nutrition label. So again, it's the same serving size. It's 8 ounces, which is a cup. For this, you get 50 calories for the Trop 50. I guess that's where the 50 comes from, versus 110 in the regular juice. So a little bit less than half. There is 10 milligrams of sodium, which is basically nothing, but it is technically a little bit higher than the original juice. 450 milligrams of potassium, which is the exact same. And then this has 13 grams of carb, 10 grams of sugar, and less than 1 grams of protein. So let's figure out what is going on in this juice. So moving on to the ingredients. The first ingredient is filtered water. So water is the most abundant ingredient in this juice. Ingredient lists are always listed in order of abundance. So the first ingredient is going to be like the biggest percentage of what's in there, and then the very last ingredient is going to be like the tiniest percentage of what is in that product, if that makes sense. So we have filtered water, and then not from concentrate, pasteurized orange juice, potassium citrate, malic acid, citric acid, magnesium phosphate, ascorbic acid, calcium citrate, beta carotene, purified stevia leaf extract, tocopherols, which is vitamin E, gellan gum, natural flavor, and then a bunch of B vitamins at the end. So basically what Trop 50 is just a mixture of water and regular orange juice, so watered down orange juice, and then they have to add a bunch of stuff to it so that it still tastes the same or very similar to orange juice, and also has the same or very similar texture that we're used to when we drink orange juice. So obviously the first two ingredients are just the water and then the orange juice. And then moving along, we've got potassium citrate, malic acid, citric acid, magnesium phosphate, calcium citrate. All of these things, they're food additives. Are they dangerous? No, doubtful. Basically what they do is they can help with like buffer acidity, so help with like the pH balance, because you want to have the same acidity as normal orange juice, because if it's a very different acid level, it's going to taste a lot different than regular orange juice. What else do we have in here? Beta carotene, naturally occurring, nothing wrong with that. It's honestly probably just in here to add extra color. Beta carotene is technically a pigment. It also acts as an antioxidant in the body, but it's a yellow-orange pigment. So since this orange juice is watered down, it's obviously going to lose a lot of the color. So they're probably just adding in that pure beta carotene in order to boost up the yellow-orange color so it looks the exact same color as the orange juice on the regular orange juice next to it on the shelf. Then we've got some stevia in there, which is a non-nutritive sweetener. Technically it comes from a plant, so it's more natural than the other artificial sweeteners. I did a whole video on artificial sweeteners, including stevia. You guys can check that out if you want to hear my full thoughts. And then we also have some vitamin E in here. Vitamin E is an antioxidant and will also help just keep things fresh. So again, there's nothing wrong with vitamin E. It's not harmful by any means. We actually need vitamin E. And also ascorbic acid is in here as well. They could just be doing that to add vitamin C because the orange juice is watered down and therefore won't have as much vitamin C as the normal orange juice. They could also be adding that because it is also an antioxidant and will help keep things fresh. So it's interesting to me, at least for the vitamin E, that they do have to add something in here to help keep things stable and essentially keep it a little more fresh, because it's got a lot of stuff going on in there. So there could be a lot of, you know, chemical reactions and things competing in there that could mess up the taste or something like that. So it's interesting that they have to add something in order to keep things a little more stable and happy and not go bad. Also there is gellan gum, so that is a gum that's used as like a thickener, so this is going to help with texture. Also some natural flavors, and then they add a bunch of B vitamins pretty much. So final thoughts on this one, it's got a lot going on in there. None of that stuff is necessarily bad for us, but again, I don't know. Personally, I would just stick to the real thing because that is just a long ingredient list with a lot of stuff going on in there. You're better off just having 60 extra calories. I mean, that's really not that big of a deal, I think, and skip out on all of this stuff. The next one I'm going to be looking at is Minute Maid Cherry Limeade. So this is definitely not your 100% juice kind of situation. This is a more sweetened beverage, but I know that these are popular. There are so many different options in the supermarket, so people are obviously buying them. So I wanted to include this as well. For 8 fluid ounces, it is 120 calories, so right around normal orange juice. 15 milligrams of sodium, so barely high, not really anything to worry about. Then there is 34 grams of carb and 33 grams of sugar. So that is a lot of sugar. A Coke has 26 grams and normal orange juice has, what did I say, 23 grams? So, I mean, 33 grams, that's a decent amount higher. That's a lot of sugar. So obviously they're probably adding some sugar in there. Let's check it out. So the ingredients are, first ingredient is filtered water. Next ingredient is high fructose corn syrup. Then we have lime juice from concentrate, less than 1% of cherry juice from concentrate, natural flavors, citric acid, grape juice concentrate, and sugar. So the first two ingredients are water and high fructose corn syrup. So this is basically a high fructose corn syrup water mixture, so a sweetened water. And then they add in a little bit of juice for flavoring essentially, and then also some regular sugar at the end. So just based on, I mean, I would honestly never buy this because A, it's just sweetened water with a little bit of juice added. You're not getting any nutritional benefit out of this. It's pure sugar, pretty much. And also, it's high fructose corn syrup. So there's a lot of debate on fructose, whether or not it is really, really bad or is it really not that big of a deal. There are two things that kind of stick out to me for fructose based on biology and then based on research. So the first one is fructose, the way that we metabolize it in the body, it is more favorable to be stored as fat. So I don't want to get too deep and scientific here, but basically in a nutshell, our body has a string of systems that we use to make energy. And we make energy on demand when we need the energy. If we're making extra energy, it just gets stored as fat. Okay, so in these string of systems, at one point or another, we actually make fructose. But at the step where we physically make fructose in our body, it is after the rate limiting step in this whole system. So rate limiting basically means if we don't need energy, we're not going to turn the system on. When we need energy, we're going to turn the system on. But fructose is made after that point. So if we have all this extra fructose coming in from our diet, that fructose that we ate, it can actually just come in that system and filter down through the rest of the system. We don't have to necessarily make the fructose in the body to use in that system. It can come from our diet. So if we have this flood of fructose coming in from our food, if we're drinking high fructose corn syrup in our Coke or our cherry limeade every single day, we're gonna get this huge surplus of fructose and it's gonna start going into that system to make energy. And it's after the rate limiting step, so it's just gonna keep going all day because we've got so much of it. It doesn't matter if we need it or not. And guess what? When that system is always cranking out energy when we don't need it, it gets stored as fat. Fructose is naturally occurring in nature, especially in fruit. However, now that we have this huge surplus of fructose, more than our bodies have ever seen, I mean, this has never been a thing where we have high fructose diets, so that could potentially be a huge problem. We're not totally sure, but it's definitely something to think about. The other thing that I wanted to mention with fructose is there are some interesting studies, some research, it's very new, but research that's coming out that is finding that fructose, when we're consuming it, it doesn't light up the same like satiety centers in the brain as sugar does. So when they compared someone drinking like a sugar sweetened beverage versus someone drinking a fructose sweetened beverage, those drinking these sugar beverages had a lot more activity in their like control and appetite centers in their brain, and those drinking the fructose really didn't. So we're thinking that fructose could potentially just be coming into our body and we're not really recognizing it, and we're not going to get as full, and therefore we're going to be able to consume more. And if you couple that with the fact that it's more favorable for fat production and fat storage, I mean, we potentially have a recipe for disaster, but you know, research still needs to be done, we still don't know. But that's kind of where I stand and a little bit where the research stands on high fructose corn syrup. Moving on. Okay, so the other things in here are basically just different juices from concentrate and a little bit of sugar, and then also some natural flavors. So when it comes to concentrate, all juices from concentrate, all they do is they just basically cook them down until they become more like a syrup. And then in order to turn them into juice, you add water. So the fact that it's actually concentrated, I don't see is necessarily bad. They just water it down and it becomes juice again. But concentrated juices are always like highly pasteurized and messed with essentially because they have to be heated to be cooked down, and they're also pasteurized. So you lose a lot of the nutritional benefits. So in my opinion, actual concentrates, there's nothing really wrong with them other than the fact that they have to be cooked down and tampered with, and a lot of the nutritional benefits in that original juice are going to be like zapped out because it had to be cooked down. So actually being concentrated doesn't really make a difference. It's going to be watered down and turned back into real juice, but the process to get it there makes it more nutritionally poor. The second to last juice I'm going to be looking at is naked juice. I know that these are super popular. They have a bunch of different flavors. The one I'm going to be looking at specifically is the pomegranate blueberry flavor. These juices have definitely gained a lot of popularity. On the side you can see like what fruit is exactly in there, which is pretty cool, and it's just fruit, no added sugar, so it seems like a really easy way for people to get their fruit servings in. But is it actually the best choice? We're gonna find out. So let's look at the nutrition facts. So the serving size for naked juice is the whole bottle, which is 15.2 fluid ounces. So almost double, 16 ounces would be double the other serving sizes we were looking at, so we have to keep that in mind. It's not the same serving size, so obviously the numbers are off the bat going to probably look different. So the calories are 290 for the bottle, so if we were comparing to the other juices, 8 ounces would probably be, I don't know, like around 145, 150, something like that. So not too much higher than the other ones. Moving down, sodium is 40 milligrams, so a little bit higher, but also it's doubled, so it's really not that big of a difference. Then looking at carbohydrates and sugar, there is 68 grams of carb in this bottle. Holy crap, 68 grams of carb and 61 grams of sugar. Oh my god, like what? That is so much sugar. I literally almost fell out of my chair when I read this originally. So taking into consideration that this is double the other juices, so even if we chop that number in half, it's right around 30 grams of sugar, which is still a lot. It's still more than a normal soda. But let's be real, who buys naked juices and only drinks a little bit at a time? Most people are probably going to drink most or all of that bottle because it's not that big of a bottle. So like holy crap, that is a lot of sugar, guys. 61 grams in that bottle. And I know it all comes from fruit. Natural sugar is better than added sugar, which I agree with. However, that is still a lot of sugar, guys. I mean, if you drank that whole bottle, especially with no other food, like no other fat or protein mixed in when you're drinking all of those carbs, all of that sugar, that is gonna go straight to your bloodstream and you are going to get a wicked blood sugar spike. And when you get crazy blood sugar spikes, you're always gonna have a dip. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So when you get a blood sugar spike, you also get a blood sugar drop or a dip. When our blood sugar is doing this instead of doing this, a much smoother transition, we're just not gonna feel as good. We're gonna have crashes, we're gonna feel lethargic, we're gonna be a lot more likely to binge and have strong cravings. It's gonna be harder to control our appetite. We want to avoid crazy blood sugar at all costs. You want to keep it as smooth as possible because the more smooth your blood sugar rises and falls, the better you're going to feel, the more in control you're going to feel. So that is just a ton of sugar. I seriously can't get over it. The last thing on here is there's 2 grams of protein, whoop-de-doo. Moving on to the ingredients. So the ingredients are pomegranate juice from concentrate, red grape juice from concentrate, white grape juice from concentrate, apple juice, blueberry puree, and then natural flavors. So there is technically no added sugar, but the whole bottle is still over 60 grams of sugar, which is almost like, it was basically like drinking like 2.5 Coca-Colas. Again, it's natural sugar, not regular, table sugar, which has a little bit of a benefit, but all in all, yes, it's all fruit. There is no added sugar, but it is still a ton of sugar to be drinking. Also, most of these juices are from concentrate, so we know at one point or another this juice was boiled down and therefore probably lost a lot of the nutritional benefit. The very last juice I'm going to be talking about today is going to be a little bit different than the others, and we're going to be looking at a cold pressed juice. So cold pressed juice has gained a ton of popularity recently, at least as far as being packaged and being able to be purchased in a grocery store. People have been juicing for years at home with juicers, but within the last, I don't know, maybe 5 years, it became so much more popular, and just the availability of these fresh pressed cold pressed juices has really grown. So the one I'm going to be going over is called Suja. I know that this is a pretty popular brand. I always see it in Whole Foods. So I just decided to pick that one. So we're going to be looking at the, what is this, the Mighty Dozen. It's one of their green juices. Since this juice does have greens and vegetables incorporated into it, it's obviously going to, off the bat, be a little bit lower in sugar. Suja does have other juices that is more fruit than vegetables, and obviously those are going to be higher in sugar as well. So you always want to look at the the nutrition facts and see what's actually in there. But I wanted to pick a green one just to kind of switch it up and give a little more variety in this video. So for the Mighty Dozen green juice, one bottle I believe is 10.5 ounces. I'm almost positive. So a little bit more than our 8 ounces we were using before when we were talking about the different juices. So for 10.5 ounces, you get 100 calories. 50 milligrams of sodium, so definitely higher than the other ones so far, but again, it's a very minimal amount of sodium, doesn't really make a huge difference. Total carbohydrates are 23 grams, and we get 19 grams of sugar and 1 gram of protein. So 19 grams of sugar is still kind of a lot of sugar. However, it is the lowest that we've come across thus far. So let's look at the ingredients. Ingredients are organic apple juice, organic celery juice, organic cucumber juice, organic kale juice, collard green juice, lemon juice, ginger juice, tea, which is purified water, organic peppermint tea, and organic spearmint tea, spinach juice, and then spirulina powder, chlorella powder, barley grass powder, and alfalfa grass powder. So basically what this is just juice from a bunch of different fruits and vegetables. There is a little bit of tea, organic tea in there, which is interesting, I didn't know that. And then at the end, we've got those 4 different like green powders, I guess, just to amp up the nutritional benefit, and I see nothing wrong with that. So this juice is definitely a lot different than all the other ones that we just talked about because it is cold pressed and therefore there is no heat applied during processing whatsoever. So whatever kind of fruits and vegetables they're using to juice, they are just crushed to the point where the juice comes out. There is no heat used at all. It's all cold pressing. And since there is no heat, none of the nutrients are getting like denatured or getting degraded. So it preserves the nutritional benefit of the fruits and vegetables in the juice as much as possible. But the problem with cold pressed juice is, you're cold pressing it to preserve all the nutrients, but in order for it to be shelf stable and to be able to be sold in Whole Foods and different grocery stores, it would have to be pasteurized, which would just cancel out the cold pressing in the first place. So what these cold pressed juice companies do is they use, I think it's called HPP, it's just like high pressure processing. That is a way for them, they put the juice under really high pressure, and that is a way to kill off any bacteria so it can last a little bit longer on the shelf. I don't believe the shelf life is as long as traditional like orange juice that you would see like in the cartons, things like that. I could be wrong. But anyway, so that is what they use in order to increase shelf life, and that's why they were able to sell it in grocery stores and have it, have a longer transit time. If you just have cold pressed juice that you make and it's not pasteurized or doesn't undergo this HPP processing, it's only good for a few days. That is kind of the backstory on cold press. So these kinds of juices are going to maintain the most nutritional benefit possible. However, they are a lot more expensive. So depends on what your budget is, it depends on why you're drinking juice. I think with these cold pressed juices, especially the ones that have vegetables and greens in them, they can be a really easy way to get in, you know, the benefits of fruits and vegetables without actually eating fruits and vegetables. Do I think you should just not eat fruits and vegetables and just drink juice all day? No, absolutely not. I mean, it can be a good tool, but I don't think it's something that should necessarily be heavily relied on or replace whole natural fruits and vegetables. So it could definitely be a good option for some people depending on your diet, your availability to fruits and vegetables, how often you're able to eat them, and also your budget. So as far as my final thoughts for juice, my personal opinion is I say you should always try to go for whole fruits or vegetables over juice whenever possible. Whole fruits and vegetables are going to have a lot more nutrients intact. Unless it's cold pressed, it's kind of a different story, but it's generally going to be more nutritious because it is not tampered with. It is just the whole normal fruit. Also, whole fruits and vegetables have a lot of fiber. When you juice them, you take all of the fiber out. There are other ways to get fiber in your diet, but that is one of the easiest ways, and fruits, especially vegetables, are packed with fiber, and most people don't get enough fiber in their diets. So there is a recommendation where you can drink 8 ounces of juice, and that would be equivalent to like 1 cup of fruit, which can definitely help people get their fruit servings in. If you are someone who just has zero access to fruit and juice is your only option, I think it's better to drink the juice than not have any type of resemblance of a fruit or vegetable in your diet. But remember that it is high in sugar and therefore should only be drank in moderation. So if it is not feasible for you to really eat fruits and vegetables, or at least meet the recommendations for fruits and vegetables, which I know can be difficult, I would say your next best option is going to be going for that cold pressed juice, because it is the closest you can get to fruits and vegetables as far as nutrition goes, and a lot of the times it can be even way greater because since it's juiced and it's compacted, you can get like the nutritional equivalent benefit of tons of fruits and vegetables in one bottle, and it's cold pressed and there's no heat applied ever, so it's going to maintain pretty much all of the nutritional benefits that a whole fruit or vegetable would provide. That being said, cold pressed juices are expensive and it's not feasible for everyone to just be sipping on cold pressed juice all day. Completely understand that. So if cold pressed juice is not feasible, I would say your next best option would be 100% juice and stop there. If you're going to have juice, just get the real 100% juice. Don't mess around, no added sugar, no high fructose corn syrup. And remember, drink it in moderation. We shouldn't be slugging juice back all day, because if we're just drinking all these sugary beverages all the time, it's going to mess with our blood sugar. Like I explained earlier, we don't necessarily get the same feelings of fullness or satisfaction off of just mindlessly drinking a sugary beverage. So it's just an easy way to just take in more calories and not really get much benefit from it. Also, for 100% juice, I mean, it is great that it is 100% juice, it's real juice taken right from the orange or whatever from the apple. So if you think about drinking an 8-ounce glass of apple juice versus a whole large apple, which I'm pretty sure are like fruit equivalents, that apple is going to have a lot less juice than a glass of juice would, if that makes sense. When you think about like the juice that comes out, if you were to squeeze an apple or juice an apple, you're not going to get a whole lot of juice out of it. You're certainly not going to get 8 ounces of juice. So while, you know, it's a good thing that it's 100% juice, it's real juice, it's still a lot of juice, so therefore it's a lot of sugar at once. So if you ate that apple, the whole apple, it's probably going to have less sugar because less juice, and also it's going to have a ton of fiber, so it's going to help that sugar that you are taking in from that apple, it's going to release much more slowly into your bloodstream because fiber slows everything down. Whereas if you just drank that glass of orange or apple juice all on its own, it's just the pretty much pure sugar and some vitamins and minerals, and it's just going to go straight to your bloodstream and give you a blood sugar spike. So that's kind of my 2 cents on juice overall. Whole fruits and vegetables are the way to go. If you can't do that, or at least can't do that all the time, fresh pressed juice is a pretty good option. If that's not feasible for you, get the 100% juice, avoid the sugary crap. So that is all I have, guys. My throat is literally getting sore from talking so much. But I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you find it valuable. I hope that this information is helpful to you. This might be my longest skinny video ever, but I feel like I just had so much I wanted to tell you guys, so much information I wanted to get across, and I didn't want to leave everything out. I just wanted to give you the full juice picture. If you guys have any requests for future skinny videos, please leave them down below. I have a huge working list, so many skinny videos to come in the future, but I am always open to new ideas. If you guys are not following me on Instagram and Snapchat, you definitely should be. I am on there pretty much every day and would love to connect with you guys on there. And of course, if you are new and have yet to subscribe to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe and join my little community here on YouTube. It would mean the world to me. But that is all I have, guys. If you stuck around to the end of this video, hats off to you. Thank you so much for watching it, and I really hope that I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!